It's on.
Boom! Ah! Gotcha. Yeah. The sacred mission. We're gonna keep going with this. Some interesting stuff here. You were considering an intelligent question. We're talking about this with Gavin. You were considering if man was not healthier when he consorted with the wolf, the bear. We seem as resistant to the duress of nature as they then, but today, here we are in our houses with plastic floors and furniture, clothing, shoes with rubber soles, and even hats. Look, you have almost lost your hair. You are insulated with these clothing. Your body has difficulty in conduction of the electric currents to the earth, along with some disturbing health problem resulting. It seems that the accomplishment of the sacred mission is not occurring so well. It is not recognized as valid knowledge. Despite the continued insulation, we still manage to be walking on soil that still conducts. There is still some contact and still some viable health in general. This conduction exists until the 19th century. 19th century. We are now back home today. Man persists in going on in the direction of error. If we analyze it from the health point of view, nature is forgiving, but it has its limits. To those who do not relate to acting as little lightning rods and carry electricity through their bodies for the completion of the required health balance that is to exist for survival of life. Added to this lack by mankind of this electric role, there is another consideration: the soil and the food that comes from deprived soil. When soil is destroyed, it does not reoccur easily by itself without the proper ecological balance. During the era of King Louis Philippe, cancer and tuberculosis became noticeable. Things were not going better but worse. Chemists such as Bernard Palissy thought that the truth lay in their chemicals. The opposite was true. The poison was exaggerated by others to the point that the possible monetary fortunes were put ahead of the health of public needs. Nutrition of man was altered, with the consequence following. In housing, we see man taking advantage of modern materials, and with these building structures that act as Faraday's cage, many buildings totally isolate the dweller from the electric passage of currents. The walls are of cement, inclusive of metal bars. The floors are covered with rubber of plastic. The roofs are impenetrable by electricity. Children start dying at birth in previously unknown numbers. They catch the first germ not to survive it. Bronchopneumonia is rampant, and so is typhoid fever. Progress goes on with the tears. Post-war, First World War, invention keep changing the relationship of man and the earth. The farmer who used to be the defender of famine now kills without knowing what he is doing with his chemicals and fertilizer. The houses become more intricately laced with iron bars in the armored cement, and not having enough of one Faraday's cage, he lived during the day in a car that is another cage just as bad. Let us not mention the plastic sheeting that covers some mattress. Plastic nylon clothing is used without restraint and contradicts sacred mission. The end result in these conditions is a condemnation of the worst kind that is indescribable in general because many people suffer their own special unknown ailments that are exasperating. Maiming and killing diseases cruelly touched the cities around this time, 1933. But the countryside, comparatively, had been spared. Direct grounding with the soil seems to have been maintaining health for the farmer. He still had his horse to sit on while he traveled. He worked the land mostly by instrument that grounded him. But the big dilemma, cancer disease set in when the use of rubber shoes, tractor with rubber tires, and the use of modern insulating products in the structure of their homes was becoming prevalent. But contrary to the urban dweller, he still has a contact with the good earth. He still has a capability to get fresh eggs, meat, and he is drinking still good water. With the sacred mission in mind, it is easier to understand why in certain American cities the prevalence of the debilitating diseases is more distinct. Besides cancer, we find heart disease, pulmonary problems, etc. These cities are those where the Faraday cage is dominant in the building, automobiles. Also in these cities, plastic clothing, furniture, and housing is standard. These people have been the first affected by the anomalies of health. Is there a remedy to this? I will address this matter in the following letter, in sufficient detail to help you decide if a remedy can apply to yourself. I am going to bring in a little humorous description of man's needs to create points. Think of the gold people, the Huns, the invasion hordes from the north who used to ornate their headdress with points of swords. Some would use feathers, others metal points in the form of bicornes, or the Prussian center metal point on the iron casket of many other military decoration or on hats. It could be coincidence or a return of lost habits even in thought. And remember Samson and his heir. Can you see some points of your home? Where it is still a question of the sacred mission relating to children of mankind. One day it was noticed that children, even at very early age, started showing signs of cancer, which to this time only affected the older people and specifically the elder. Poliomyelitis starts the concern about children after World War 39-45. The knowledge of the sacred mission appears to have the answer. At birth, the child has not started yet to accomplish his natural sacred mission. This was done by the mother for both during the gestation period. He may have been suffering from the lack of knowledge or impossibility for the mother to do so during the war and afterwards. It was difficult at times to practice the requirements for proper electrobiological hygiene. Therefore, the child was born with an handicap. He was in need of nourishment from his mother's milk, and it was often the case that only cow milk was available. This commercial sterilized milk, especially at birth, is not conducive to answer all the natural needs of growth at birth. Canned milk is diluted often with mineral waters compared to mother's milk, which is pre-digested, being living in electrobiologic. The baby is often in an automobile, a cage of Faraday that isolates from the electric requirement of an healthy life. This same baby is pampered with all toy plastic, even the sandbox which is lined in plastic or cement. Even the clothing is isolating. The baby gets an overdose of isolation everywhere. We have disgress to artificial surroundings of everything modernly designed for elimination of direct contact with the earth.